Welcome to the Real Estate Marketing Podcast. Today I have with me Sara Tessel. Sara is a veteran real estate agent with some unique marketing strategies that we dive into. Her thinking outside of the box and remaining consistent with the marketing efforts that match her disposition have allowed her to thrive. In today's episode, we talk about her favorite marketing strategies, creating connections through Facebook groups, strategic Facebook comments in groups, her farming where you live strategy, her farming using her senior real estate specialist designation, as well as farming event ideas. Thank you for joining me, and now I bring you Sara Tessel. Today I have with me Sara Tessel. We're really excited to talk about all the ways that she is uniquely building her business. So, Sara, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much. I'm so excited to be here.
You always are. To start, tell us a little bit about your background in real estate.
Sure. So I started at a foreclosure attorney's office in 2008, which was a really good time for that. Very busy. Kind of got bit by the real estate bug, decided to work for title companies. So I did that for about 10 years and then decided to jump over to real estate, transaction coordination, and being an agent.
Yeah, so the next phase, you only have to be a loan officer.
Well, I've worked for a lender before, but I kind of glossed over it.
Okay, so you have
I've
seen
done it
the
all.
full gambit. No one can pull one over on you then.
That's accurate. I worked at Freddie Mac when they were coming up with the new closing disclosure. So that was very interesting and terrible, but do not recommend.
Great. Well, Sara, tell us a little bit about, or tell me a little bit about some of what are your favorite marketing channels to get into, ways to build your business?
Right now, I would say Facebook is really big for me. So being involved in groups, there's a lot of groups out there. They do, in-person events, going to the events, being a part of them. I'm sponsoring an event tomorrow, bringing the muffins and whatever, and just being a part of a community.
Cool.
So not just, hey, here's what I can do for you in real estate, but, giving other referrals or being helpful, in other ways is important.
So Facebook groups is one of the big ones. You are the queen of Facebook. What are some other things that you're...
Instagram, of course, doing Reels. I do a lot of videos for what can you buy for, X amount in whatever city that I happen to be in, because I serve all over Northern Virginia and DC. So I get a wide variety of, $450 in Triangle versus $450 in Arlington is a huge difference. So it's nice to be able to showcase that.
Cool. Facebook, Instagram, and then tell us a little bit about your farming, the condo buildings.
Sure. So my building is about 400 units. So I've started farming the absentee owners. So I got a list of all the people who do not live there. So I started sending them basically CMAs to their mailing address, and then to the address in the building, sending a letter saying, hey, if you're a renter and you need help, either renting or buying, that's something that I can help you with, because nobody's really reaching out to those people.
Right.
And renters have a lot of misconceptions about what they need to do to be able to buy a property. And in my building, they're paying a lot to live there, and they could just be, they could purchase a unit.
Cool. Are there any other big marketing strategies that you've been working on, or those three kind of the big ones?
Yeah, I mean, networking is generally big for me. So I joined a BNI, which is the chapter's actually in Maryland. So that's interesting for me to connect with people outside the area. But I'm the Virginia agent, so that's big for me, is networking.
Well, let's talk first about Facebook then, because I know you've been doing that for a long time, and
since the beginning of Facebook.
Since the beginning of Facebook, which isn't that long ago. But it's mostly Facebook groups, right? You're not just like posting on Facebook. You're doing something unique, which is getting into groups, and you're really active in them too. You're contributing. You go to events. What kind of groups are you involved in?
I mean, it has to be a group that really has something to do with something that I'm interested in. So whether it's the area, Northern Virginia, or it's, corgis in Northern Virginia, or
is that a group?
I don't know if it is, but if it isn't, I'm going to start it just so I can get pictures of corgis. Or there's like different, it's hard to make friends as adults, so there's different like friend, groups where they're trying to make friends, and it has to be genuine. It has to be, hey, I'm coming from a place of wanting to give, rather than, hey, I'm going to make friends with this person so I can sell them a house and then hit the road
and bail out.
And people are always looking for referrals for, contractors, painters, anything like that. So it's nice to be able to help and provide that.
So what does it look like? You're in these groups and they're all kind of local. Is that right? All the
Yeah,
groups are
yeah.
local. So is the connection, maybe this is a false dichotomy, but is the connection mostly online, or it's really the online sets up mostly in-person stuff, or is it a mixture of the two?
I would say it's mostly online.
Okay.
A lot of people aren't, they want to get out, but they can't because they're moms and they have, they've got their kids with them. They don't want to go to a meeting with their kids, or they've got, the timing isn't right, or they've got their full-time job and they can't go to have coffee in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
So, Facebook, they can ask something and get answers throughout the day. They don't have to, do a live video or really put themselves out there. It's more passive and a little bit less scary, I think.
Yeah, and it's just so interesting. So, and then these groups are obviously around an interest, and then you're just on there either asking questions, answering questions. How does the community kind of build in there?
I think a lot of it is coming together for a common goal or resource, so a lot of them, the social collectives that have been really big in this area, their goal is to give back to charity and to connect entrepreneurs and other business people, and everyone comes there with a giving mentality.
Gotcha.
So I think that's the most important thing. Everyone is there. Obviously, they're promoting their businesses, but they're also helping each other.
Gotcha. And then there are some, the social collectives, there are in-person.
Right. So each group usually has a meeting once a month. So yesterday was the Loudoun County Coffee. Tomorrow's the Fairfax County Coffee that I'm sponsoring. So I'm bringing the muffins. I have to figure out what else I'm going to bring. I don't know yet. But
awesome.
but I mean, it's a great place. And I will say, from the social collectives, I've got the buyer that I have right now who's under contract with you guys.
Yeah.
That's directly from the social collectives.
So I think going with the giving, that makes sense, because people can sniff out as soon as, if you're selling anything, it all crumbles very quickly. But you go with giving, but presuming that someone does that, how do you kind of morph that into business, or how does that help you grow your real estate business?
I think it's again that genuine connection. It's finding people that you want to be friends with, and again, because making friends as an adult is really hard. When you're a kid in school, it's the person who lives next door to you or rides the bus with you. Whereas at work, especially now, work from home, a lot of people aren't connecting. So it's wanting to find that genuine connection and finding people who are like you. So for example, I'm a little bit sarcastic and snarky, maybe a bit, but. So there are plenty of people in these groups that I wouldn't get along with, but I'm finding people who are like me, who I can connect with, and who we can say, tease about this ridiculous plant that you have here or something. Yeah. Not that it is, but that's the only example I can think of. That it is a plant. Yeah. Right, just look at it. But finding genuine connection, and then the business just comes from it. It's a long game, right? Yeah. It's not, you're not going to get business right away. I'm very surprised even that this buyer, really came along and is actively, under contract, because it takes time. Yeah. I've networked for a long time, and I've had a lot of people who I've known for 5 or 6 years who just now are starting to be like, oh, well, maybe I want to buy, or maybe I, want to sell, and so it's just you have to be in it for the long haul.
Yeah. That seems to be the case, because in real estate, just the sales cycle is so long for you. People don't move for so long, so you have to. And if you meet them right after they bought a house, you're going to have to wait a long time until that comes around. But also, if you're not consistent, then
they'll find somebody else.
They'll find someone else. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I met a buyer in July virtually from another EXP agent, and we just for the first time went out this weekend in February for the first time to look at houses, and. He was qualified then. He just wasn't ready. So it's keeping in touch. When people finally do say, "Oh, I want to buy or I want to sell," staying on top of them, making sure you're available, doing what they need.
Yeah, being there. Let me ask you this, because with that, for the marketing for these these groups, even if it takes a long time, how do you have a methodology for trying to tease out? Is this a worthwhile effort that just takes a long time to mature, or this is a bust? I'm going to move on and try something else. Do you have any thoughts on how you think through that, or it's just
Well, I think it's the ROI, right? So you have to think about what am I investing and what am I getting back?
Yeah.
So if you're, sending out a bunch of mailers and it's, hundreds of thousands of dollars each month, you're sending out tons of mailers and you're not getting anything back, that you can decide pretty quickly, over, 2 to 3 months, if I'm not getting one call, okay, I'm going to table that. I'm not going to keep doing that. But Facebook is free.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, okay, I'm putting time into it, of course, but I'm on Facebook anyways.
Yeah.
So I don't consider that to be, a huge sunk cost.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are times when I'm not on there. I'm doing actual work that I need to be doing. But other times, I've found it's really valuable, and again, it's free. So a lot of agents start out, they don't have money to put into marketing.
Yeah.
So that's the best way.
Yeah. And the other thing is, it's also something you're already interested in. So even the time is, in a sense, it's worthwhile because you kind of be doing that stuff anyway. If you're going genuinely, if you're interested in those groups anyway, I'm going to be in the corgi group anyway,
All of the corgi groups. And I think you can also start your own groups. So for example, with the makeup and skincare that I do on the side, I've had that since before I was an agent. That's been almost 6 years I've been doing that. And that group, they know I'm an agent. I'm not putting real estate content out to them, but they do know that. And that's, 400 people who, I feel like have connected with me over the past 6 years.
Yeah.
Now you can create a group, for your area. I could, create one for my building or something like that. But you just it has to be something that you're genuinely interested in.
Yeah.
I could create a corgi group and that would be
money.
Yeah. Houses for corgis. I don't know.
And then if you never got a lead ever from it,
it would be fine.
I still
love it. People still give me their corgi pictures and I'm happy.
That's a very interesting, just thought. But yeah, if you just are enjoying it anyway, then, and if it's on Facebook,
it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on how to maximize or tips on how you really get the most out of those groups from a business perspective?
Well, I think, it's easy to get discouraged because someone will say, oh, I need a realtor in Fairfax County. And it's, everyone's commenting all these big names, big groups. I know that there are some groups that you can get into where you get paid to refer someone, whatever.
Yeah.
But I have found that people will search groups and look for, what they are looking for. So instead of asking a new question, oh, I need a realtor in Fairfax County, they're going to search for realtor.
Yeah.
And they're going to read through the comments and they're going to see your comment and they may reach out to you, which has happened to me.
Yeah.
And so it's important to still comment, even though it seems pointless. Oh, there's 85 comments. Why would I bother? Because people can come back years later and search that group.
Yeah.
So make sure that, your comment isn't, hey, I'm a realtor in Fairfax County. It's, hey, I'm a realtor in Fairfax County. This is my focus. I also help renters, for example, or, I help seniors or whatever, so that they can.
It's for a broader audience. You're not really addressing that question. You're addressing the broader people look through it. That's really interesting. Do you make a point to try to comment on a lot of things so that people see your face in the group more often? Is that
only if it's genuine? Only if I have a genuine thought or referral. I'm in a foodies group, right? Northern Virginia foodies. I am not really a foodie. I love Outback Steakhouse.
Yeah.
I don't go to these fancy places. So a lot of times I won't comment on those because my referral is going to be oh, just go to Wegmans, whatever. Don't who cares?
Sure.
So it has to be something valuable.
I see.
So I think that's really important.
Yeah. Really cool. Any other thoughts on it? If someone wanted to start implementing this or start doing this, do you have any advice that you would give to them?
Start small, start really local. So, don't do, all of Virginia or all of, United States corgis. That's not, that's great, but a smaller niche is actually going to get you
even
more.
on Northern Virginia corgis, and maybe not even, Alexandria, but city of Alexandria.
Right. I mean, it feels, and I definitely felt this way when I first started. It feels weird to be oh, well, I only want to be in Fairfax County, because I will do Winchester or Culpeper or Orange, but people want to know that you are the expert on that area.
Yeah.
So,
and the smaller it is, the more likely your voice can
be heard. Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
And you can focus on, new coffee shops in Fairfax County.
Yeah.
Okay, that's, doable, and people will see it.
Yeah. Interesting. Great. Anything else on Facebook? Cool. Can we talk about the farming strategy in depth a little bit more? So this condo building, how many units? 400?
About 400 units.
400 units. And maybe walk through it again from a high level, your strategy, what you were thinking. When
Sure. So I've lived there for 7 years.
Okay.
7.5, so almost 8 years. I love where I live. So I think that's key, first of all, is it's got to be, you can't be, I want to be your realtor, but also I want to leave this place as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So you have to actually like where you live. And it's, again, providing value. Hey, here's some information. I'm going to put out, I've decided to only do it quarterly because I don't want to be over the top. Right. I mean, it's too much. People, they get something every day from some agent.
Yeah.
But it's a letter basically saying, hey, if you're a renter, just to let you know, I do help rentals. So that means that if they want to move to a rental in a different building, I can help them. But also, hey, you may not have to put down as much as you think. You may be able to purchase a unit in the building if that's something that you're looking for. Mm-hmm. And just, I did the list through the MLS, of absentee owners. So owners whose address basically is not the same as the property address. And then what I do for the property owners is mail them a CMA. Hey, by the way, our condo fees have gone up so much. You're not making as much money because you can't raise the rent that much. Like it doesn't correlate. Yeah. And so if you've considered selling, reach out to me. I'd be happy to help because, being a landlord sounds like a great idea until it isn't, until, you're out of the country and you have to do something, that your washer breaks and it has to be taken care of. And then it's like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. And because, I have such knowledge of the building of, okay, the condo fee has gone up $215 in that period of time that I've been there for a 1-bedroom. It's gone up significantly more for the 2 and 3 bedrooms. Mm-hmm. So now if you've been renting out your place, you're not making as much money because you can't increase the rent that much and you still have to pay your condo fees. And if you have a mortgage, that's obviously eating into it too. If you don't, you're still, paying a significant amount for the condo fee. It's over $1,000 for the 3-bedroom units. Right. So
this is so interesting because a lot of agents, when they think about farming, they want to think about less of, some will think about their neighborhood, but a lot's initial reaction will be, let me go to the expensive neighborhood.
Absolutely. And that's, I've definitely had that experience with other agents of like, well, why would you farm your building? The units are 200 to 300,000. And it's also because for me, I can literally walk across the street and go to the appointment. It's easy for me. I would love to sell only in my building if if people would use me, I don't know everyone, and that's what I'm trying to do is get to know people. But the ease of, hey, I'm in the building, I know what the amenities are, I know what the rules are, is really big, I think.
Well, and you can truly, to speak to what you said earlier about going to these groups with good intent with value, is like you can bring real value to landlords in your building, whereas if you farmed 3 neighborhoods over, you might not know the intimate details about all the costs. So you really are the expert, and it's kind of, are you the big fish in the small pond or the small fish in the big pond? But you really can add value. And when you give them CMAs, like it's your own apartment is,
one of the comps,
your own.
Right, and a lot of it is, I have gotten to know people in the building. I will say my expert advice is find the neighborhood Doris Kravitz. Do you know who that is? She's like always looking out the window and seeing what she knows. Befriend that person, which I have, because they will refer you. So, and also making friends with the front desk people. So I have a listing appointment next week because somebody called the front desk and was like, I need to sell my unit. Who do you know that knows the building? And they gave them my information. You know, it's a studio. It's, you know, $180,000 sale, but it's across the street.
But it's a winnable sale, right? Again, going to the other strategy, if you were hitting on the homes that are 1.1 million, you know,
right.
Sure,
what do you know about that?
It there, but what would you know when the competition there is going to be like fierce, and it's going to be very hard. You got to mail on that and door knock for years and years and years and years. Right. Whereas you can actually win, and you really are the expert, right? You don't have to pretend anything. You don't have to, you know, it's all off the top of your head because it really is.
And getting involved with the community. So like last year I did a shredding event. So the building was built in 1974. There are plenty of people who have been there since the beginning.
Gotcha.
You know, we had a hoarding situation in one of the units that the unit was condemned, which is like a big deal.
Wow.
And could have really affected a lot of other people. So, you know, having the shredding on site so people can get rid of things, you know, they've got their bank statements from 40 years ago that they just don't need anymore.
Yeah.
But they don't feel comfortable, you know, going out and taking it somewhere.
Right.
You know, my building is significantly older population. I would say most people are 70 plus.
Okay.
It's not, you know, an age restricted community, but that's just who lives there. And so getting my senior real estate specialist designation, the SRES designation, has been helpful to kind of understand the things that they're going through of, okay, they want to age in place, they want to stay in this building, but what do they need to do for that to happen? Do they need to move into a smaller unit? Do they need a 3-bedroom? Maybe they just need a 1-bedroom. You know, do they need to change their tub into a walk-in shower? What are the, you know, different, you know, problems that they face that maybe someone our age, you know, isn't facing?
Yeah, that's so interesting. Can you take a second? Make sure the camera's looking great. It looks great. I just like to check. So let's go there and talk about the SRES. So real briefly, the SRES is the Senior Real Estate Specialist.
Yes.
And just real briefly, that course or class or test?
Yeah, so there's a course you take. I'm not sure how many hours it is, to be honest with you. It was a lot.
Okay. It was a lot.
It was a lot of hours. And then you take a test to get your designation.
Yeah.
And it was important to me, you know, my grandmother had to move into a facility, move out of her house that she had been in for 50 years. And it was a unique set of challenges. It was, okay, she's got all this stuff. She can't take it with her. What are we going to do with it? You know, how are we going to respect her wishes, but also, you know, not burden her children with, and her grandchildren with stuff that they don't need. So, you know, learning how to kind of figure out the emotions there. And I found that, you know, bringing in a third party is helpful. So it's really difficult for, you know, adult children to have that conversation with their parents. But when you bring in the realtor that says, okay, this stuff is great, let's take pictures of it, like even professional photos of all of your things, and then let them go.
Gotcha.
And it's not the adult child saying,
right,
Mom, I don't need your china set. It's, well, people don't use china anymore. So let's, you know, let go of it. And just letting them be heard, I think is one of the biggest things that I learned is, okay, like, this is their life. Like, this is their whole life. Now they have to squish it into one small room in an assisted living facility. They're giving up so much of their independence. And so taking the time to see them and listen to them and hear their stories is, you know, really helpful for them. And it helps the adult children to not have to have that burden.
Yeah. So does the SERS, we talked about your farming is rentals and absentee landlords. Does the SRES play into that farming strategy at all, or?
I mean, because of my building being an older population, I think it just allows me to have a little bit more knowledge on what they're kind of going through. Because a lot of people are going to live in my building for a long time. You know, there's a woman who's 106.
Wow.
She doesn't go out, and, you know, she just... I mean, her brother, I think, was like 108 when he passed. So she's like, okay, I got 2 more years, you know. But it's ultimately about, okay, what challenges are they facing? What have I learned? And how can I help them?
Yeah.
So doing the shredding was a big thing, you know, bringing in the help that they need, bringing in organizers, you know, they've got all this stuff. What do they need? What do they not need? So that then when they do pass, it won't be left to their children. Yeah. So how to handle those conversations.
So farming often has events, right? You want to become the the expert. So you've done this. Tell me a little bit more about events being in the community. Do you have events scheduled? So you did the shredding one, which is cool because it's both an event and it's helping. It's not purely entertainment or just donuts or whatever. You're actually helping solve a unique problem that's unique to the population that you're serving.
Well, and the shredding was also really good because it was supported a charity as well. So there's a charity in Loudoun called Echo, and they help disabled adults have jobs. So they took the shredding and they shredded it through the shredder, and that's their job. But they need people to, have these events so that they have things for them to shred. And they have a lot of other activities that they, have for them.
Sure,
but that was really good. So, they were able to come out, they brought the bins, I paid for them to, come, stay, take them back. And, it was a good experience obviously for my community, but then for that charity as well.
Yeah.
We'd like to do it in the spring. Again, as I mentioned, we want to make sure that the building is healthy. Hoarding is a real problem. Especially for the elderly where no one's coming in and seeing them, no one's seeing the progression. They are just one day it's there and one day it's overwhelming. I would like to do a mobile pet groomer. So that's something that I'm looking into, to do like nails and baths, in the parking lot for some kind of reduced price or something like that. That's probably next up.
That's cool. I'm sure that, you're in all these groups on Facebook that have events. Like hopefully just the creativity kind of spills over into things like shredding that I would never think of. Although also the SCRS probably gives you more context on, hey, what are problems like?
Right, and the collectives is where I met with that charity who we were able to help. So it's all it's all connected. So it's about like just staying involved.
Yeah, I love that. And then the last thing that you mentioned was Instagram, and specifically like what can you afford, or whatever dollar amount gets you in whatever town or neighborhood or
right. So sharing when I'm doing showings or when I have a listing. And just showing like, hey, this is how many, bedrooms, baths. These are the things that need to be updated. Like, okay, the price is lower here, but it's also, you're going to have to put some work into it.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting for people because they think about, well, my office is in Fairfax. I need to be in Fairfax. Well, do you? Like, what can you get in, Stafford? Maybe it does make sense to move out there.
Right.
If you're getting, twice as much square footage and a yard, is that something that you want? Is that something that's important to you? So trying to help people see what's out there, because ultimately you're really only looking for what you think that you want. So seeing what's out there is always helpful to people because they just aren't looking.
Yeah.
It's not on their mind to go to Stafford or to go to Fredericksburg.
Yeah. That's quite really clever. And so what was the question? I just had a question.
I think it also helps show that I go to a lot of different areas. So like one day I'll be in Alexandria, the next day I'll be in Centerville, then I'll be in Stafford, So for me, that's good to highlight, hey, I do go to these areas because people know that I live in Falls Church. That doesn't mean that that's where, I only do business.
Right. And for the vast majority of agents, you probably want to be like that. You want people to know you go a lot of places, whereas maybe there are some agents that really niche down and only do a tiny little area, but that's probably a select few, whereas advertising your broader experience, and that, hey, if you decide to go across this county line, or, I'm not suddenly going to be totally out of my
Right, I'm
feeling uncomfortable.
Right, and I will always, refer someone if there was something that if I feel like I'm not able to help with, I would always refer them out to someone who I did feel like was an expert. But I just think early on in my career, it's more important to me that I work with people who want to work with me. So I'm not buying the leads. I'm not, spending money on Zillow or Realtor.com.
Sure.
So the people who want to work with me may be in other areas because that's just where they live or where they want to live. So for me, it's more about finding the right people and working with them, the people who want to work with me, not the people who just want to hurry up and buy a house and they don't care who they work with. Like it's a relationship business for sure.
Going into 2023, we're already in, but going into it, are there any other, marketing strategies or ideas that you're either thinking about or keeping a pulse on, or do you feel like this set of them really has served you well, and just leaning into those is kind of how you're going to go forward?
I mean, I have been adding some blogs to my website, which I think is good for SEO,
Yeah.
obviously, but I don't think it's going to, go viral and drive a bunch of traffic. Not that my website is, anything fantastic anyways. That's a separate issue. But I do think that it's just reminding people that you're an agent. So, hey, I'm really busy. I'm doing all these things. Like, I'm still out there, the market might be slow, but I'm still out there doing things. So.
Yeah.
Just trying to stay top of mind.
Cool. Love that. Anything else in the real estate marketing world that we neglected to touch on? We crushed it?
We crushed it.
Great. Well, Sara, tell people if they want to learn more or if they want to get in touch, where can they find you?
On Instagram, I'm OK_Sara. And on on Facebook, I think I'm Nova Realtor.
Nova Realtor.
Just search me. I'm there.
Sara Tessel.
Sara Tessel Realtor.
You'll find it. Great, Sara. Well, thanks so much for coming on. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Real Estate Marketing Podcast, and we'll catch you in the next one.